Hello again, Fissels family and friends. This is the Daily Pastoral Message for Friday, September 25th. I'm at Gettysburg again. Today I'm standing outside of the renovated, reconstructed, whatever you want to call it, headquarters of Robert E. Lee. It is believed that he had headquarters tents in the fields across Chambersburg Pike here, but that he used this building, at least for part of the three-day battle, for planning, for meeting with officers, and there is good documentation for that. It's not clear whether he actually resided in the house during the battle. The house is known as the Mary Thompson House. She was renting it from Congressman Thaddeus Stevens, who was a staunch abolitionist and was the driving force behind the passage in the House of the 13th Amendment that abolished slavery in the last year of the Civil War, before Lincoln's assassination. And so I'll be coming to you today with the Confederate side, a story of the Confederate side of The Spirit Divided. I've read selections from The Spirit Divided, the Union side. That was compiled by Mary Nyack and Brinsfield. This is written or compiled, edited just by John Brinsfield. And so I wanted to share with you a brief reading of the way some pastors in the South felt with the coming of the Civil War. As you know, when Lincoln was elected, South Carolina was the first state to vote for secession, even before he was inaugurated. In December of 1860, they voted to leave the Union, and other states came with them. Tensions still continued to boil, and then they erupted on April 12th, 1861, when Fort Sumter in Charleston Harbor was bombarded, forcing the Union garrison there under Major Robert Anderson to evacuate on April 14th. And the bombardment of Fort Sumter is viewed as the initial engagement of the Civil War. Following that, the next day, on April 15th, Abraham Lincoln set forth a proclamation requesting that the various loyal states raise 75,000 troops to help defend the Union. This angered even further the southern states that hadn't withdrawn from the Union yet, and galvanized even those who were not necessarily in favor of slavery into defending the cause of the newly born Confederacy. This included several church organizations. And so this is where I'll begin the selection from Brinsfield's introduction to The Spirit Divided, Confederates. Many Southern churchmen also lined up to endorse the Confederate government. On 29 April, the Georgia Baptist Convention, meeting in Athens, resolved that because, quote, Abraham Lincoln is attempting by force of arms to subjugate these states, we consider it at once to be a pleasure and a duty to avow that both in feeling and in principle we approve, endorse, and support the government of the Confederate States of America. In May, the Southern Baptist Convention, meeting in Savannah, Georgia, and representing Baptist Association in 10 southern states, declared, the Union constituted by our forefathers was one of co-equal sovereign states. We most cordially approve of the formation of the government of the Confederate States of America. Other southern Protestant denominations soon drafted their own supporting statements. The Methodist Episcopal Church South was between general conferences, but the Methodist ministers in the Tennessee Conference passed resolutions in November 1861 supporting the Confederate government and requesting Bishop Joshua Sowell to, quote, appoint as many preachers of this conference as he may deem proper to the chaplaincy of our army. In the same month, Bishop Leonidas Polk, Episcopal Bishop of the Diocese of Louisiana, directed Episcopal priests to substitute in the prayer of those in civil authority the words "the President of the Confederate States" for the previous President of the United States. Polk went on to be a general in the Confederate Army. In December, Southern Presbyterians formed the General Assembly of the Presbyterian Church of the Confederate States at their meeting in Augusta, Georgia, and declared themselves separate and independent of the General Assembly of the Presbyterian Church in the United States of America. The action of these church bodies did not allay the alarm that many Southern preachers felt in their local communities. The Reverend Alexander D. Betts of Smithville, North Carolina, recorded his feelings. One day, in April 1861, I heard that President Lincoln had called on the state troops to force the seceding states back into the Union. That was one of the saddest days of my life. I had prayed and hoped that war might be averted. I had loved the Union and clung to it. That day I saw war was inevitable. The inevitable must be met. That day I walked up and down my porch in Smithville and wept and suffered and prayed for the South. In South Carolina, the Reverend James P. Boyce warned his sister Nancy that if war came, it would be the end of slavery. At his home near Macon, Georgia, the Reverend George G. Smith thought there, quote, seemed to be now no choice between the abolition of slavery and secession. And in Mississippi, the Reverend Thomas Caskey wrote, I didn't know exactly what position God would take in that fight. The issue was a personal one between us and the Yankees, and we must settle it as best we could among ourselves. Within 12 months of the surrender of Fort Sumter, all four ministers, Betts, Boyce, Smith, and Caskey, would have served or be serving as chaplains in the Confederate Army. And so, questions of war and peace have always been deep spiritual questions, and the issues of the times caused the church to fall on one side or the other of popular opinion. But in a case of war, generally the spirit will be divided. How do you care for the spirit of the troops if you cannot see God on your side? And again, as I've quoted before, Lincoln said he was more concerned that he was on God's side than God being on his side. So this is another story of Civil War chaplaincy, Civil War religion, and I hope you find it interesting. Continue to pray for our congregation, the family of Hank. Look forward to seeing many of you at Hank's memorial service tomorrow. Continue to pray for all those affected by the coronavirus and for all who are in need of healing, all who are in need of consolation, all who are in need of strength and encouragement. Until we talk again, stay safe, stay healthy, stay strong. And I know that God is continuing to bless us all. Goodbye for now.